What's up? What's up? I see we got Wildcat in the house. What's up, brother? What's going on? Wildcat in here. Anon in here early. What's popping? So we are here. We are going to be talking about McLaren, Red Bull, and of course, you know, Red Bull are always going to be up to something. They always got some type of shenanigans going on. Christian Horner's always complaining about something. Christian Horner's always trying to voice some type of complaint or some type of protest because his team's not performing. And possibly instead of putting more energy into developing your team, you put a lot more energy in trying to hamstring strong other teams or tie other teams' hands behind their back with a bunch of protests and a bunch of paperwork. And it comes off as a bit trashy. You know, it's part of the game. If you want to protest something, definitely that your driver's been wronged in or whatever the case may be. But it definitely is crazy. Sent you a DM on Discord, popping in more now with a new job. Hey, okay, bet, brother. I will check that. But we're gonna talk about this whole thing. I think some of you probably saw Zach Brown with the water bottle that said tire water. And right now, it is also being reported, as we will see, Red Bull are using thermal imaging to try and find or discover or unveil whatever secrets or whatever, really not even a secret, it's technical development. McLaren have developed a way to keep their tires cooler, and Red Bull have not. And Red Bull have not done this astronomic, what we have known to be very dominant platform development since Adrian Newey left the building and other people have left the building. And so now it would seem that they are doing what other teams were trying to do to them when we came to new era regulations of ground effects. And it's fair game to do so. But there are some things that you can do that aren't fair game. There are some lines that you can cross that technically are damn right illegal. And some of us know this, right? We've seen some of these things. So we're gonna go ahead and check into this real quick. It says Red Bull reportedly want to know how McLaren are able to keep their Pirelli tires in the magic window so reliably, no matter what the tarmac temperature, no matter what the track. According to AMS, the team has turned to thermal imaging cameras to capture the temperature of the tire cooling ducts on the McLaren when the drivers come in for their pit stops, with the focus primarily on the rear tires as they generally overheat more quickly than the fronts. The German publication claims Red Bull have noted many blue areas around the brake vents on the McLaren tires, while all other cars showed on a lot of orange and red, with the team coming to the conclusion that it is impossible to cool the tires that well with just air alone. Okay, so here it is. This leads us into knowing what's up, Lord Chaos, Wildcat. What's going on, everybody? I see the fam Dave's Quattro, the Shamad show in here. So this lets us know why Zach Brown, and we know Zach Brown and Christian Karen Horner, you know, Freaky Deaky can't keep his hands to himself. We know that these two don't have the best relationship. Zach Brown does not hold his tongue on calling out Christian Horner or Red Bull for things that they do that are unbecoming, although he could have been a bit stronger when 2021 rolled around, but you know, that is what it is. And we are fully aware of this. Now, what I'm going to get into is this. Is what Red Bull doing, is it illegal? Is it something that you cannot do? My opinion is not just yet, but it can become there. If they fly too close to the sun, they can find themselves. Kenny Bugs, brother. Kenny Bugs, bro, I sent you a voice memo on Twitter, brother. I sent you a voice memo on Twitter. I also talked to you on a video. And while you're here right now, I just want to take the time to express my deepest and sincerest condolences, as I did on the voice memo that I sent you on Twitter, and let you know, brother, that I hope you stay strong, mentally positive, and keep charging forward. That I understand that you have undergone a event in your life that me as a parent is one of my worst fears. And I just hope that, you know, positive energy and God just bless you with the strength to carry on and live a life, because you are loved, you are cared for, and people do like you, brother. So deepest condolences, man. Peace and love to you and the family. All right. So we're gonna get into this, Christian Horner and all of them. So we already know, and what I'm going to get into, you should already be aware of, is this team. And this team currently now is Aston Martin, but we're talking about Racing Point, which got the name Tracing Point. And they got that name because, as you can see, they pretty much literally copied the Mercedes. All right. They literally copied the Mercedes to, I'm going to say 0.95% of this car was like exactly like the Mercedes, 95%. And that's a lot. And my numbers might be off, but the visual appearance of that Racing Point, Tracing Point car to that Mercedes championship car was so strikingly resemblance that it was pretty much deemed a carbon copy. Well, this same team, lineage wise, is now Aston Martin. And what did majority or a lot of us criticize Aston Martin for doing? They became the green bull, right? They became the green bull. They came out with an update and it looked strikingly similar to the Red Bull car. Okay, so these are the patterns that teams have. Certain people are in place. Racing Point got the nickname Tracing Point, which Racing Point is now Aston Martin, and Aston Martin got deemed the Green Bull. So you can kind of figure out that moving forward, what else have they done? Well, they've acquired Honda. They've acquired Adrian Newey. They might even acquire Max Verstappen. So this team, this ownership, these people have a tendency to say, you know what, we're going to copy what's working, what's the best, and keep moving forward and see if we can expound on it. Pretty much like I was talking about with Flavio. He cheats. He's been known to be a cheater. I don't see why he probably won't cheat coming forward, but hopefully he doesn't. Don't want to deem anybody that has actually changed in life. So let's go into something, because what I'm saying is what Red Bull are doing right now, I'm not fully there to say it's illegal, right? But we do know, because of the situations that have occurred with Racing Point, Tracing Point, and other situations, that it is now it's not legal to copy another competitor's car with using certain technology. And so we're going to go over a little bit of the verbiage just to kind of help us work through it and understand where we're coming from with that. All right. So when it comes into that, we're going to go into the technical regulation. All right. We're going to go into the technical regs, and we're going to start right here with 17.3.3. And it says right here, starting right there, it says, although it is permissible to be influenced by the design or concept of a competitor's LTC. And if you don't know what LTC means, it is listed team components. And a lot of times you'll see acronyms. You might not know what it means. They fully have an acronym layout. All right. So using information that must potentially be available to all competitors. This information may only be obtained at competitions or tests as defined respectively in Article 5 and 10.1.3 of the sporting regulations, which we don't have to go into that, but it just outlines the events and where you can do that. And no competitor may design its LTCs based on reverse engineering of another competitor's LTC. So you cannot take another competitor's development. And this is where Red Bull can go extremely wrong. And if they do this, if we find out for some reason the brake ducts on the Red Bull look exactly like the brake ducts on a McLaren, function exactly like the brake ducts on a McLaren, there should without a doubt be a full investigation to how you all develop this component exactly like this one and copied it. There should be an investigation. And I do mean a strikingly deep investigation, because they're already being reported of using thermal cameras to capture the thermal images of the McLaren as it comes into the pit stop. Okay, they're already doing that. So you're already in the area of, okay, you're using cameras. You're capturing images of another competitor's car. Now, with these images that you start compiling, are you using other means of resources to collect this data? This is where Red Bull can end up getting into a sticky situation. So if we go down right here, because we've already read this part right here, based on reverse engineering, it says competitors for the purpose of this article, reverse engineering shall mean. So we're going to get into the ways of reverse engineering they cannot use. The use of photographs or images combined with software that converts them to point clouds, curves, surfaces, or allows CAD, which CAD is computer aided design, if you don't know that, geometry to be overlaid onto or extracted from the photograph or image. Okay, so right there, you're basically taking an image of your car. You're going to take an image of their car. You're going to overlay it and find out where the body lines don't match up. Move your body lines to match theirs. Move your ducts to match theirs. Move any other components or pieces that don't match up with your car. You're trying to overlay your design with theirs and get it to match up and then produce those panels. That's illegal. Okay, so if Red Bull happened to start taking pictures, all right, taking pictures with certain devices, and then we find out Red Bull all of a sudden have cooler tire performance. How did they get it? Then we look at their end ducts. Their end ducts look like McLaren's. Right there, investigation time. Investigation time. So the other thing is right here. B, bravo. The use of stereophotogrammetry, 3D cameras, or any other 3D stereoscopic techniques shall not be used. Any form of contact or non-contact surface scanning. Okay. So some of you all out there deal with 3D printing. You know, you're going to scan the surface of an object. You're going to scan the surface of an object. You're going to scan it. Then you're going to take it in, because people do that. People do that with firearms, right? They scan it, put it in a 3D printer, try to make a 3D plastic mold version of a firearm and literally get it to function. And thank God a lot of airports do have imaging machines that can still see that. But for people and places that don't have it, they're depending on metal sounds, metal pings to know that you have something metallic in here that I need to check. Okay, so be aware of that as well. Okay, so scanning surfaces, 3D imaging of any type is not allowed. The next thing we'll go into is delta. Any technique that projects points or curves on a surface so as to facilitate the reverse engineering process. In cases where isolated features of competitors' LTCs may closely resemble the features of another competitor's LTCs, it will be the role of the FIA, which, let's just keep it real, a lot of times when it comes to Red Bull, we have grown not to trust the FIA, as they have not penalize Max accordingly, or when they do penalize him, it's really not just. And then you see another driver do a similar situation with the same breach of article, get a stiffer penalty. So the FIA have by action lost our trust to govern the sport equally across all competitors, because we've seen Red Bull get a lot of hall passes. All right. But as it gets in right here, it will be the role of the FIA to determine whether this resemblance is the result of reverse engineering or of legitimate independent work. The following provisions apply. The following further provisions apply. Okay, so those following provisions in Echo: all competitors must provide the FIA upon request any data or other information that is required to demonstrate the compliance of this article. Frank, Foxtrot, for all LTCs used during the championship, the restrictions described in the article apply to their entire design process, including actions carried out before the calendar year of the championship. And then golf, the FIA must issue guidance from time to time to define more specifically the requirements and constraints of this article. If Red Bull find themselves somehow taking images of this McLaren, and then because they're trying to blame it that they're putting water in their tires, which I don't think that's the case, and that's ridiculous. Anything aside from what might make it through the filter as far as the air is concerned, possibly, but that's everybody. But Red Bull right now are scrambling and panicking, one, to try and compete, because now they are in equal competition and they're not faring well. Go figure. I mean, they're not faring well in equal competition. Let's just keep it a buck. I'm already compiling the stats. You know, Max Verstappen in a non-extra dominant car is not doing these GOAT-like things. Right now, he's in equal competition, equally matched cars, and we see what it's looking like for Max Verstappen, right? We see what it's looking like. And a lot of people thought this one. We got Mechanic Mercedes in the super chat says Red Bull stay proving us right. Facts. They stay proving us right, which means we shouldn't trust them. And remember what I told a bunch of buttholes, right? I said Max Verstappen's back half of his season in 2024 might very well look like his season starting out in 2025. And what have we seen happen? Here's his season 2025 starting off. Does it not resemble the back half of his season in 2024? One race win in 6 races. That's what I was talking about. And it looks like that's what's happening. We're going to keep an eye on it. It could change, right? They could end up finding out what's happening, and they could end up finding out what their problem is and develop all over that. But from what I know, if this development does take place, there should be a definite investigation on Red Bull. It should be. They definitely should have to follow these steps. They definitely have to should have to put in their request for their design modification. But if all of a sudden you already know that it is being reported this team is using thermal imaging cameras, then it's not far-fetched that they're using other type of photography to try to capture images of the McLaren as it drives by, or it's in the pits to try to then develop their car. That's where they're going wrong. So it's already looking very suspicious for Red Bull. Okay? When cameras and reports come out that you're using thermal imaging, why should we not probably safely assume a team like Red Bull might not have other imaging being utilized to extrapolate this information? You're well within your reasons to think so. Okay. We already know Red Bull were driving an illegal car at least part of some seasons. We know this. Asymmetric braking is not legal. Come on. We got to stop the BS. They already, by financial breach of the cost cap, were driving an illegal car anyway. So, yeah, just like I said about Flavio Briatore, he's known to be a cheater. Just like I said about Racing Point, Tracing Point, Aston Martin, they're known to try to duplicate their competitors or somebody else's car that's doing well. It's the same for Red Bull. They're known to be underhanded. They're known to cheat. They're known to be damn disrespectful. They're known to be racist. All of these things about Red Bull are true and can be proven through various articles or even reports. So if it's already coming out, they're using thermal imaging, I'm not putting it out of context that they're probably using other imaging. And if they are, and we see this update that turns into an upgrade, and all of a sudden they have the similar cooling ability as the McLaren, yeah, they need to be investigated. And maybe they need to spend a little bit more time developing their car than just spying on another car. But get it, the walkarounds that drivers do, that team principals do, that engineers do, that's legal. Adrian Newey did it all the time. He walked around the Mercedes. He walked around the Ferrari. He walked around the Aston Martin. He walked around the Alpines. Adrian Newey was always visually on site looking for things on cars that may be a performance adder. And if it made sense to him, he's drawing it in his little red book. He's going back to his office. He's going to sketch it out. He's going to see if it actually makes sense. And if it makes sense, we're going to take it to the wind. He does that. That's legal. That's completely okay. We saw Lewis Hamilton. He'll go look at the Red Bull. Lewis Hamilton has a very good tactic when looking at other competitors' cars. Typically, he has his hands behind his back, right? Because he doesn't want it to be excused or even misconstrued or putting out of context that he's touching another competitor's car. Because you're definitely not supposed to do that in Parc Ferme. And who's done that? Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen went up to Lewis Hamilton's car, fondled his rear wing, touching all over his rear wing. You're not supposed, it is illegal for you as a competitor to touch another driver's car in Parc Ferme. You are not even supposed to touch your own car without the FIA present in Parc Ferme. But Max Verstappen did this, and then we saw the FIA allow Red Bull to come up with a standardized test to test another competitor's car. That shouldn't have been allowed. But they did it. So then you find the wings just a little bit out of tolerance. Well, then the problem is Max Verstappen touched that rear wing to the point we saw the rear wing move. So if that's the case that it's out of tolerance, why then should it not be safely assumed that we are safely come to the conclusion we can't determine if it was like this before or after you touched it, Max, because you touched this car in Parc Ferme. We tested it after you touched it. So technically we can't penalize Mercedes for this because you already violated one of the rules that if we came and did this test and you didn't touch this car, then these tests and these results could be more sound and believable. But it's diluted when you have a competitor touch another competitor's car and then test that component that the other competitor touched. That shouldn't have been allowed. And right there is why we don't trust the FIA when it comes to Red Bull. And then somebody went and said Lewis Hamilton touched the Red Bull car, and he never touched it. The cameraman had an angle. Lewis's hands were never close to the car. These are the things that we all know. These are the things that come up and it's BS. So it's crazy to see these things. It's absolutely crazy. It's crazy. So hopefully Red Bull aren't going to cross that line of illegality. Hopefully they're not going to do that. But I don't trust that they wouldn't because they're desperate right now. They're desperate to try to compete. They're desperate to want to be more dominant because evidently the GOAT supposed driver still in a dominant car, still in one of the top fast cars, isn't able to do what most people said he would be able to do in a Haas and an AlphaTauri. He's lost pole position twice. He's got pole position twice, and he's been unable to convert to a race win twice. So they need a very dominant car for Max Verstappen to win. Because obviously, without a very dominant car, he's only winning one race every 6 races right now, as it sits. And if that continues, there is no driver's championship for Max Verstappen. There's no 5th driver's championship. And I had said it. I think 4 is where his ceiling is going to be. I said it. History typically has a way of kind of resembling itself. And they got 4 with Seb consecutively. They got 4 with Verstappen consecutively. Adrian knew he's out of the building. So what happens now? What happens now? That's the main question. What's going to take place now? And I do not believe that will happen. Now, I also will say this. I don't count Red Bull or Max Verstappen out on fast laps, qualifying, or maybe getting this thing back on track. It is still very early in the season. We are only a quarter away through this season. We got 24 racing events. We got 24 racing events in all. All right. We are still well into this season, and 18 more events left, 6 more events before we kind of see what's going to happen because some teams are going to bring some more development within the next 6 events. And then we're going to see where they land. But yeah, this is what, a lot of people out here bragging and talking about, all the goldness. Yeah, this is what you got so far. And if that continues, that's not a championship season. I can tell you that right now. And the only thing that saved Max Verstappen last season is everything was heavily front loaded before the other teams got online, before the other teams figured out how to develop their car, before the other drivers started getting a handle on their car. All that happened. Started the back half of the season, and we saw what happened. Well, now you're coming into the season within that competition, and this is what's happening. It's not saying Max Verstappen's a bad driver. It's saying that Max Verstappen may not be as good as y'all think that a lot of people say he is. He's good. He is good, but the GOAT, God level, come on now. AlphaTauri, Haas to pole, come on now. That was far-fetched. You can't even get one of the top fastest cars on the grid all the time to get in the race, win the race, or even pole position all the time. Come on, we got to stop these exaggerations about Max Verstappen. He's a 4-time world champion. Congratulations. 3 of those championships are certainly bust in asterisks. Guaranteed. 2021, definitely a bust. 2022, breached the cost cap. 2023, asymmetrical braking. 2024, what are we talking about? No, 2024 asymmetric braking. 2023, I forgot what that was, but 2023 might be in that. Still, residual to the cost cap. So I am, like I said, I am online. I am on record that if Max Verstappen somehow manages to win 2025 within competition, I'll give him, this probably will be his most legal and legitimate championship in all of his championships. That'll help him. But hell, you know, I always said this, but, you know, things come to fruition, but we're going to see what happens. So not this weekend, but next weekend we'll be back and we'll be in Italy. Ferrari better do something with themselves, right? 2 weeks of driving, 2 weeks of testing, 2 weeks of sim, 2 weeks of something. They better come up with something going to Italy, because it's going to be hot or hell or high water if Ferrari go in there and just look ultimately horrible. It is not going to be a good day. It won't be a good day. All right. And we'll just see where that's going to land. And for sure. And I always tell people that, and you know what? It gets diminished because I combat so much lunacy on the channel. But I always say Max Verstappen is a good driver. He is a generational talent. And he still is not good at wheel-to-wheel driving. He's good at exposing the rules. He's good at dive bombing and getting the corner. But he still can drive. He's still a generational talent. But he has a lot of strikes on him that don't tally him up to generational talents like Lewis Hamilton. I'm just keeping it a buck. He's not even close. He's not even close. Not even close in his career time yet. Not even close. Not even. There's so many pockets and so many different elements that Lewis Hamilton has that Max Verstappen can probably never obtain. It's not even close. Not even. So those are things that still you're within the room, but in this room, there are still levels to it. And in this room, you're not on that level yet. Not even. You're just now matching the level of Sebastian Vettel in your own team. He already achieved four consecutive championships. Congratulations. You did the same thing he did. Probably in a more dominant car than he had. So that's what I was saying, man. At Red Bull, concentrate on your car. Red Bull, don't cross it. Don't fly too close to the sun. Don't get burnt, because it can happen. Don't start taking 3D imaging. Don't let us find out you got 3D imaging and you've been, trying to duplicate and copy everything McLaren doing, because if you do, the FIA ought to move in, but we don't trust them to do that. We don't trust them to do that, but we'll see what happens. So big shout out to everybody in the live chat. Big shout out for you pulling up for me this morning. Found myself able to get on here, so I did. And now it is time for me to go and take a chill pill. All right. So peace and love. I will see you all later on this week. We will have Wolves Den in the Discord meet, so be there for that. Dreads, how you doing? I see you in the live. I also see Dave's Quattro in the live with the fam. New member right there, Dreads. Big shout out for joining the family, man. Nice to have you in the family. Big shout out to Dreads for joining the family. Matter of fact, let me shout you out and give you one of our nice emojis, brother. Welcome to the family. Let me welcome you officially. And then give you one of the Wolfpack family emojis that you also can use in the live chat, brother. So welcome to the family, Dreads. Nice to see you. When I see those badges, I know those are new family members that have just joined. Blue and purple badges, those are just straight up real OGs. Blue and purple, straight up OGs. You got the green badges, Patronus blue badges. Those are some of our new prospect family members that have just come in. But like I said, shout out to Dreads joining the Wolfpack fam, man. Peace and love to everybody. Gregory, I see you in here, bro. What's up? What's up? We out. We'll see you on the next one.